see. Oh, we've got a lot of individuals today joining us. Exciting. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Eye on ESI. This is our April 12th, our fourth month of the year. I'm so excited. We're doing these monthly events. I'm joined today by Jared Coseglia, founder and CEO of True Staffing, and of course, Mike Quartararo, president of ACEDS, and author. Mike, I'm going to plug your book because you've got a second edition out. So, and I don't think we've been plugging that enough. So, second edition of project management and electronic discovery. How are you guys today?
Fabulosus.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming.
Still
Good.
a little bit of a cold or a sniffle or something, but we'll see.
I'm feeling good. It's beautiful weather in New York today, so I'm excited and happy, finally. Mike probably doesn't like the 82-degree weather, but
Love 82.
awesome. Oh, great. So Jared, we've got limited time. We've got a lot. We want to get to questions. I want to make sure to share with everyone. If this is your first time joining us, this is an interactive discussion. This is not just about Jared, Mike, and I talking to each other. This is really answering your questions, getting your feedback, hearing your comments on what you're seeing in the industry as well. So please feel free to throw your questions in the chat. We're going to go through as many of them as possible and answer them. What we don't get to today, we'll try and get to through Jared's true trends that he does, or through some other conversations that we have, or in next month's Eye on ESI. So Jared, do you want to kick it off for us?
Yes, so we're at the end of the first quarter of 2023, if you can believe it. And so today we have got some trending and some new statistics and some reporting on what has happened in the first quarter of 2023. And I find this new data to be really fascinating. I think it really helps us understand what is going on in the mind of the job seeker and the mind of the hiring manager. So a couple quick trends, and everyone can see the screen, hopefully. Yes? Good. Okay. 95% of job seekers are accepting offers when they're extended, right? This is a huge change, meaning what we saw happening last year were lots of people taking counter offers, lots of people waiting to get a second or third or fourth offer before they decided to take an offer. And that's just not happening as much. We're seeing more first offer extendeds get accepted than we did this time last year. And we're seeing 95% of offers that are extended through our organization to candidates get accepted. Right? So if 100 people got jobs, only 5 of them said no to one of the offers that they got. That means the people that are looking are serious about looking, which makes sense. 100% of first round interviews are virtual. So this is the new normal. Interviewing first rounds will always be on a video, not a phone, not in person. It doesn't matter if you're a C-level or you're an entry level, you're going to be interviewing on a Zoom call or Teams or some technology. So get good at Zooming. It is now critical to your job search. 80% of job requisitions are filled with the first wave of candidates. Why is this important? It essentially means that our customers are being more deliberate and decisive with their hiring practices, meaning they want to see 4 resumes, they want to interview 3, they want to call back 2, they want to hire 1, they don't want to interview 10 people, they don't want to see 100 resumes. They want the process to be deliberate, and they're making their offers much more deliberately than they were in the fourth quarter of last year. There are fewer jobs open than there were in Q1 of 2022. There's no doubt about that. But there are also fewer job seekers, meaning a lot of people took jobs in 2021 and 2022, and they're not necessarily looking right now. There's also a lot of freezes on headcount. That means that there are less jobs, but there are also less people looking. So the competition hasn't really changed. We're still seeing salaries, and we'll get into that in a second, stay pretty consistent with what they were in in Q4. They're not coming down, meaning that rate of hire in terms of dollars and cents isn't dropping based on market conditions. It's holding firm. So this is the new normal. And finally, we're seeing less than 10% of job seekers who received a job offer through us even get a counteroffer. Why, right? Why, when so many people were taking counteroffers over the last 2 years? Why? Well, a lot of people need to find ways to cut headcount. A lot of employers are looking for opportunities to add back into their budget, maybe to allocate those resources elsewhere. And so a lot of people are fine with a couple people leaving, right? A lot of people have cultures where they just don't fire people. They kind of wait for them to leave. And that's something we see a lot of, quite frankly. So we're just not seeing as many counters. So if you're using your job search as leverage for a counteroffer in this environment, you might be disappointed when you're graciously shown the door when you go and present your resignation.
Jared, I just want to ask a question there. Is this because possibly Mike's, the one word Mike doesn't like us to talk about is so-called recession, that people are being extremely careful about counter offers because they are cutting back on headcount, or they were looking to do layoffs or anything like that?
Yeah, let's not use the word recession because we're sure as hell not in it. The stock market sure as hell doesn't indicate that we're in it.
No.
And our business doesn't indicate that we're in it. So, and I know what that feels like, right? I lived through Occupy Wall Street and 9/11 as a staffing, professional, and COVID. We're not in a recession right now, right? What we're in is a state of uncertainty. And that state of uncertainty changes the behavior of the job seeker and the hiring manager. And I think that's indicated in these trends.
I've got a question too, because this is kind of, I guess some people would view me kind of old school. And that's fine. I'm owning it. You could see the gray.
I'm getting old school too, brother.
You can afford razors more than I can. That's the difference.
True.
So there was a notion in hiring, and I was a hiring manager for many years in my law firm career. There was a notion of this idea of job hopping, right? And if you had too many jobs too close together over a short period of time, you were a job hopper. And what does that mean? And I'm curious today if you have a thought on what that is today. Is it different than it was?
It's completely different. Here's why. 3 reasons it's completely different. The e-discovery contract marketplace has evolved and matured into a state of normalcy for the way companies operate, whether it's law firm, vendor, consulting firm, or corporation, that you're just seeing people move from contract to contract, from impact opportunity to impact opportunity more frequently than you did, when you and I got into the business late 90s, early 2000s, right? And that's when e-discovery really became an industry, in my opinion. The other reason is because the competition has been so fierce for so many years now, post-pandemic, that tenure is kind of the 5th, 6th, 7th thing that the hiring managers really care about in comparison to strong relativity skills, having previous law firm experience, having previous vendor experience, having great soft skills, being able to consult as well as process data, using the most advanced technology. There are all these other things that are more important to hiring managers than tenure, and competition has been so fierce that I just think people have been less focused on that. Now, having said that, does that eventually come around to bite that job seeker in the butt years from now when they say, all right, I've moved around a lot, I've tasted all these things, and now I want to settle down? Maybe, but probably not from an employment standpoint, probably from a negotiation and bargaining for compensation standpoint, right? That's where that person who may be deemed job hoppy may have to make some concessions to now fit into an organization as a full-time employee in a way that they can commit for perpetual. A lot of contractors are making a lot more money than they're probably ever going to make in a full-time job. So that's the real, and also working less hours. So that's the complexity of it. Is what's more important? Do you want the stability of full-time work, and why, and what do you get from that? Or are you looking to maximize your earning potential? And I'll say most of my contractors make significantly more than they would make cash.
Jared, do you think, I've read some things where millennials and Gen Zers are more prone to job hop, right, and move around due to culture and money and other things? Is that part of that as well?
It's part of it, yeah. But they'll change the way they think about things eventually too. So,
Okay.
They're not going to stay 20 and 30 forever.
No.
Right?
Families start and other things, right? Retirement starts to loom very quickly. Question from our attendees. I've seen a lot of interviews with law firm heads and corporate heads that we aren't out of the woods yet as far as a not so good economy. Is that what we're hearing? When will things, in our opinion, start to look more optimistic? Is that 2024?
Definitely not 2024. I think it'll probably be end of second quarter. I had expected it to be the end of the first quarter. It's not. It's going to probably be end of second. And here's why. You're going to get 2 quarters back to back where big tech has high profits and their stock prices go up, and then they're going to start hiring full time again. And that doesn't mean jobs are going to become available. It's just the social cues that the rest of the world is taking in terms of the temperature of recession or not recession. Should we, spend money? Should we cut budget? And, look, Zuckerberg fired 10,000 people. Everybody else did within the next 3 months. So right now we're in a state of uncertainty. And when we start to see, in my opinion, big tech is a good indicator of what the rest of the economy will probably do. And I'll just say this, the NASDAQ is up like 25% in 3 months. And that means money in the coffers of those people. Once they have 2 quarters of really profitable earnings report, I think you're going to see the entire culture of full-time hiring accelerate aggressively. Now, I can tell you right now, and we'll get into this in a second, contract hiring in Q1 has been fierce in e-discovery and even more so in data privacy and cybersecurity.
And I'm going to say I've heard a lot about funding increasing in this industry for us. So legal technology, a lot of companies are coming in, starting to do funding. We've got VCs, private equity, a lot of others coming into the industry as well. So I think that, like you said, it's not indicative of what's happening for us, but more so the overall economy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the privacy and cybersecurity communities, and I can speak to them because we do that as much as we do e-discovery, have felt the impact of that uncertainty more so than discovery. And you're going to see that when we talk about contract numbers, because a good indication of uncertainty is contract numbers go through the roof. And as we've been predicting, we thought contract this year would be like 60% of our business. So you'll see where we're actually at here in a second in Q1. And that's a real indicator of how e-discovery fares in comparison to other industries. Real quick, though, I want to touch on this because I think it's really fascinating. Anyone that's worked with my organization or has worked with me personally knows that the kind of only thing I ask or really need to know from somebody is what motivates them. And so we track that pretty rigorously in terms of what's motivating the job seekers that come to us for representation. And
this is brand new for us because we haven't shown this before. So for anyone who's been with us before, this is the first time Jared is adding this in for us.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. In Q1, things really shifted. What we saw here in 2023 is that the #1 reason for people looking for jobs is the same. They want remote working hybrid. Things change. That's the one thing they're not willing to compromise on. That has remained the same, and you're going to see that really impact the numbers on the workforce evolution in a second. Mentorship and new leadership was #2 last year. It's dropped to #3. What wasn't even on the chart last year, which is now #2, is more challenge and opportunity. And that doesn't mean going into other industries, but for some people it has, because they feel like they've hit the concrete ceiling in terms of earning potential and growth opportunity in the space, right? If you're a senior PM making $200,000, you're either motivated by 2 or 3, chances are. #3 is a really important one because this is where the industry is having friction. And there just aren't enough leadership jobs available for all the people that want to move into some kind of leadership opportunity. And particularly during an uncertain economy, there have been less and less of those jobs in Q4. We're starting to see some now pick up. We've done a lot more director and manager level placement in March than we did in February and January, and there's more coming. But people in ESI want to lead, man. They are tired of just executing as a project manager, and project managers are looking for what's next. So if you're looking for how to really speak to and motivate and inspire a PM, help them understand what's next, not just that they're going to come and do the same job that they were doing where they're at over for you for the same or a little bit more money. Money moved from 3 to 4 because I think a lot of people made a lot of money on their job moves in the last few years. And so that seems to be kind of less important than these other things. And unfortunately, diversity, equity, and inclusion is just not something that's coming up in conversations right now. Changing verticals is going into another space is a primary motivator, but I'll say to you that a lot of people that come to us with that motivator don't ultimately take a job where they change verticals. They wind up taking a job in the space for other reasons, some of which are listed above. Why do I think DEI has dropped off the chart? Not because people don't value it, because I think that they do, but I just think that in e-discovery, people are not coming to us saying, I feel like, and maybe this is a good thing, I feel like DEI is terrible where I'm at, and I need to get into a culture where it is the #1 value of the organization. Maybe that means it's being valued in a lot of organizations, so people aren't motivated for that reason, and that could be a really good thing. But I will say that for the last 2 years, it was coming up a lot more in conversation in terms of people wanting to leave for those reasons. And look, that may mean organizations have made changes in 2021 and 2022 because they were getting candidates that were motivated for those reasons, or losing talent who were leaving for those reasons and articulated that on their exit interviews. So that's not to say it isn't important to people. It's just not a primary motivator right now.
That's interesting. It's interesting to me because I think I am seeing more, Dawson Horn and a group of individuals launched Built at Legal Week, right? Blacks United in Legal Technology. We're starting to see more women organizing, right? Organizing events and conferences and committees around women in legal technology. So I find that's interesting that it's kind of fallen off as a motivator.
Well, look, I'll tell you that in data privacy, and this is going to be published shortly, there are more women in leadership positions than men, categorically. I don't know if that's necessarily true for eDiscovery, but we've always found that our stats over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of gender kind of hover back and forth between 45, 55%. It's not like cybersecurity where I can tell you definitively that there is a serious drought of women in leadership roles in comparison to the volume of men at the CISO or CTO level. I mean, that industry needs to address that much more aggressively than I think ours.
Yeah, I don't even have to do the research on that. In eDiscovery, there's a terrible imbalance.
So we do have a question. We've got 2 questions actually. So I want to touch on the first question. The second question we have is, can we further define changing verticals?
Moving into something tertiary like legal ops or data privacy protection or cybersecurity or AI or something other than moving into a role that is either a lateral or vertical eDiscovery position.
Yep, perfect. And the second question, have you also noticed an increase in the number of job descriptions outright requiring, right within the job description, nights and weekend work, and also putting forth a max salary that doesn't take that very important job requirement into account?
Yes, customers should expect to pay a premium for someone working a second, third, or weekend shift. Yes, candidates expect that. Yes, there are a lot of jobs for second and third shift and weekend coverage. We have a lot of them open right now. They are harder to fill for obvious reasons. People do post salaries, but I'll tell you guys that about 1 in 3 of our customers is paying more than what they told us the cap of their range would be in order to get the person they wanted to take the job. So you can't read those posts and go, oh, that's $10,000 shy of what I need. Not interested, right? Employers are still going to be flexible. Just because they posted a range in order to be compliant doesn't mean that they are not going to potentially go above that range. 1 out of every 3 times they appear that they will.
And Jared, I think you should unpack that a little bit, because I'm not sure everybody is aware that certain jurisdictions now require that a job posting have a salary, at least a range in there, so
Correct.
that it's the intention is to really promote salary equity, right?
Correct. It's to promote specifically gender equality amongst men and women in pay, but it doesn't relate to any specific industries. It relates to specific state, city jurisdictions. It is not a federal requirement right now. So you will see some postings in some places and some in others. I'll be honest, I don't know that it's really changed anything, but we'll see. But I do think the thing that it has changed, and not in a good way, is, and I think this is indicative of the question that was just asked, people are seeing ranges, they're thinking that they want more than that range, and they're not applying. And I will also say this, our customers are telling us, and this is why our business is increasing as we head into March and April, we posted the job for 90 days and we're not getting any qualified applicants. There's a million reasons why they're not, right? A million reasons, but this is one of them.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right,
Okay.
10 minutes, a lot of space to cover. Let's roll.
Let's rock. Jobs by employer, ESI. This is also a new statistic. This is just Q1, but this is who actually accepted offers in the first quarter. As you can see, law firms were 50% of the marketplace. This is a huge change from what normally is, right? Vendors and consulting firms usually consist of 65% of the open jobs that are accepted in the marketplace. Why? Why are so many law firms now hiring versus what is normal and traditional? Well, the service provider and consulting firms in Q4 and into Q1 were the first to show the greatest reluctance to spend a lot of money on headcount, right? They pull back first, then the law firms pull back, and quite frankly, the corporations pulled back before the service providers, right? Which is why they're only 4%. And almost all the corporate positions we filled in the first quarter were contract positions, not full-time positions. Now we're starting to see those open up a little bit, but they, again, pale in comparison to the volume that we're seeing in service providers, consulting firms, and law firms. And another reason is law firms really struggled to fill jobs in the fourth quarter because they were forcing people back into an office. The market was still sort of hot. People weren't willing to come back in. And so they just didn't fill their jobs. Those jobs that were open, almost everything that we had open in Q4 got filled in Q1, right? And there were a lot of jobs that were still open from like October, November, going into the first quarter that were still open. And as you saw by speed of hire for law firms, they're getting faster at making decisions. They're being more deliberate and they're getting more acceptances, right? Whereas before, law firms might have 3 or 4 offers that got declined before they got someone to accept because other people were hiring. Consulting firms and corporations and service providers were hiring and they were beating law firms out because they're fully remote positions paying the same salary or just a little bit less. They had a lot less jobs in Q1. Law firms were able to win a lot more talent for that reason. Speed of hire here, you see law firms for PMs have sped up. That used to be 120 days. It's now 70. Mike asked me before this call, Jared, why does it take 172 days to hire a salesperson? And I put this up here for 2 reasons. One, to explain why. And one of the reasons is salespeople are generally passive job seekers. Most of them are not actively on the market. So the urgency of getting them an interview and in front of the right stakeholders and making decisions quickly is sometimes a bad sign to a passive sales job seeker. Why are you moving so fast? I'm in no hurry. I'm just shopping around. Why do you want me to make an offer in 2 weeks? That may be too fast. Somewhere between 172 and a few weeks, 30, 40 days is probably the right time frame. The second reason I put this up here is because I think 172 days is crazy too. And I think people that want to give themselves competitive advantage to acquire sales talent should move faster than what the average mean time is for a sales hire. I'll also say this, salespeople are not operational, analyst PM salaries. And these are people that are sometimes negotiating hundreds, if not millions of dollars in guaranteed compensation over periods of time much longer than 90 days. And so that complexity of negotiation also takes a lot longer. Also, salespeople wait for commission paychecks. So unlike operational professionals, a sales rep might be interested, but say, hey, listen, I just closed a big deal. I need 2 more months before I'm really gonna decide to maybe make a move. I got to get that paycheck on this. It's too much money. I can't walk away from it. We see that happening a lot, particularly with successful salespeople. And so that extends the timeline as well. For everybody else, you'll see the timeline is stayed pretty much the same as Q2, except for law firm PMs. What we found here, and this is our speed of hire that we traditionally show, it's pretty much the same, guys. About 75 days for C-suite in terms of from the time we send a resume to a time an offer is extended. About 40 days for mid-market professionals, that's analysts, PM, analytics, review managers, and then 7 days for contractors. They go quick. So if a good contractor comes on the market, one of our customers is going to grab them up pretty quickly. There's still a high demand for that and plenty of opportunity.
Hey, Jared, is there any evidence around there's a stat we used to look at, conversion, right? Temp to perm conversion. So
Yeah.
in your parlance, contract to full FTE. Are there any numbers around that?
What I could say is this more anecdotally. I can count on one hand, and it was less than one hand, how many conversions we had in the first quarter. People are in no hurry to convert. They're not in a hurry to convert. Conversion is a sign that there is certainty. There's not a lot of certainty right now.
Got it.
Cool. So salaries, take a screenshot. I'll go through this quick. They haven't changed. What I think is really notable here is that these are the new normals in terms of salary, and PM salaries in particular have have really gone up almost 40% from 2020 post-pandemic. And this is the new normal. This is what people should expect. They're going to have to pay for a law firm PM. 165 to 195 is about what it will take. It's a lot more on the West because there's less people available. Providers, again, has stayed more or less the same. I think what I would note here is on the client service manager, client service director, analytics overlay, senior PM team lead, we're starting to see more of those jobs come open on the market, which is also a sign that certainty is coming because they're looking to put in net new leadership roles that didn't exist before, particularly and this is all service providers. So I think that's a positive sign as well.
Jared, we have a quick question.
Yes.
Going back to our contractors, right? And why is there such high demand for contractors? Are these for e-discovery PMs and e-discovery managers? And I think that's
not managers, not managers. No one wants contract leadership. It's
project work, right? It's project work.
It's project work. It's all project work. It's project managers, data processors, legal data process, database analysts, analytics professionals to serve as an overlay, review managers to come in and help with big projects. That's the work.
I think why not hire full-time is because in a time of uncertainty, or maybe you're being told you don't have budget, maybe you can't fill an open spot right now because people are a little uncertain. So how do you resolve that? Contractor.
It's also about utilization, Mike. Hey, I need somebody, but I only need them for 20 hours a week. I don't know that I'm gonna have work for somebody. I don't want to have reporting at the end of my year that's like, why'd you hire this person? Their utilization compared to everybody else. Now I'm not going to get budget for next year. You bring in a contractor, they bill what they bill on, and you can project how much profit you will make with that individual without having to take on the burden of full-time headcount.
I think that also plays a part in what we're seeing as more and more people want to go into the gig economy, right? For the flexibility that it gives them. So we're starting to see an increase in our industry, right, around the gig economy. Do you want to further explain what the gig economy is for those who may not?
It means you take control of your career. I mean, think about it, guys. I built a whole business on the value of you beautiful e-discovery professionals who have expertise that is highly sought and hard to find. And if you're looking for something, and look, a lot of people that are, in this place of, I've got older parents, or I'm having kids, or I've got other pursuits outside of the business that I'm invested in, but I need the funding, like I need to live, and I've got these great skills, but can I work 20 hours a week? Can I come in and just work for 6 months? And those opportunities are out there. And what I think the hiring managers in e-discovery have come to accept, which took years of soliciting, is they're out there. It's available. It's a real solution. And I think that they just thought, oh, talent is such high demand. Everyone's going to take a full-time job. A lot of people don't want full-time jobs for a million different reasons.
Yeah. And that goes back to motivation, which you shared earlier, right?
Right. And let's also touch on sometimes a full-time hire has to go to an office, but if you're a contractor, you're exempt from that rule. That's another workaround that a lot of our customers are finding value in is, I can't find a full-time person that's going to come in 5 days a week, but this contractor can Band-Aid me until I can. And that Band-Aid may need to be a 3 to 6 to 12-month Band-Aid. Happens a lot.
And we've only got a few minutes, but I think the follow-up question was, has this been for a while? And yeah, I think we saw it starting before, right? Before the pandemic. And it's just begun to increase as we've looked at the numbers that you've shared over the last year and a half that we've been doing.
100%. And e-discovery is a far more mature industry than cybersecurity or data privacy. And those industries are just now having the aha moment that contracting is a viable way to augment their programs. So e-discovery hiring managers are way ahead of the curve. So if you're a job seeker who that really speaks to, that opportunity is definitely out there, not hard to come by. And also with hiring managers that have done it before, as opposed to a lot of our privacy customers who are doing it for the first time.
And I do want to touch on one question before we finish with you. We're going a little bit over time, but I think we have 1 or 2 minutes. Does ACEDS partner with or recommend any organization related to cyber, data privacy, IG? So we have partnered with ARMA, and we do provide essentials of information governance. That is a course. So if you go to, I think, if Deja, can you throw the link to our IG essentials in the chat for us? So we do partner with them. We are very close partners with ARMA. We are, Mike, I think we're developing a relationship with IAPP. We've been working on that. So we do have relationships outside, but
Partners with MER too.
MER conference, and ACEDS is actually also developing micro courses around a lot of this as well as it relates to e-discovery individuals, upskilling in cyber, data privacy, IG, and other related areas like forensics. Sorry about that, Jared. I just wanted to make sure I caught that question.
Beautiful.
Great. All right, let's take one more minute just to go through and finish this.
Contracting, hybrid relocation. Here's remote versus hybrid. 2022, 89% of jobs were remote or hybrid, which means 3 days a week or less in an office. 66% of those 100% remote. In Q1, 90% were 3 days a week or less, hybrid or fully remote, and 75% of those 90% were 100% remote. So if you're 100% remote, your jobs are getting filled faster, you're seeing more candidates, which also means you have to be more competitive and move quickly. If we move on to contracting, you'll see here that contracting is actually at 39% in 2022, and it's only at 36% for e-discovery. Now, why is that? A lot of it has to do with all the law firm hiring, which is leftover jobs that were open in Q4 that got filled in early Q1 that propitiated that. But look, 36%, that's 1 out of every 3 jobs, more than 1 out of every 3 jobs that we fill is a contract position. So it's a voluminous marketplace. I will tell you that in privacy, it's north of 50% right now. You look at the bell curve, it's a little different than it has been. Nothing really notable here. I think what we expected was a big pendulum shift. And you can see kind of what we expected here is that pendulum to really swing in 2023 and 2024, come back down. We'll see what happens with the rest of this year. I'll say this, if we do go into a recession, I don't think we will, that this will come true, right? This will come true. You'll see even less full-time jobs and even more contract hiring. If things balance out, which is I think what will now likely happen in Q3, what you'll see is probably a maintenance of where we're at right now, which is around 36, 1 in every 3 in e-discovery. That's all I got, guys.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time. We're actually over time. Thank you everyone for joining us. And please, if you haven't read, Jared does our True Trends on a monthly basis. So feel free to go to our blog and read up on that. He shares a lot of nice stats in that as well. We're back next month. We'll hope to see you all then. And if you have any questions for us to prepare for our next one, just send them over. We're happy to just brainstorm how we can make sure we hit all the points that you have. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Mike. And we will see everybody next month.
Thank you.